and all the participants are welcome to this online FDP program by J.A.T College, Malegaon. So, dear participants, today we have with us one of the famous personality nationwide, with whom I mean Shrihari Pingle sir. He is present. Good morning, sir.
Very good morning.
With this brief introduction, we will start. Shrihari Pingle sir is presently working as assistant professor and coordinator IQAC at Sangamner Nagarpalika Arts, DJ Malpani Commerce, and BN Sarda Science College, Sangamner. He is one of the founder member of IQAC Cluster India. In his short career of 14 years, he has already served as IQAC coordinator of his college for 11 years and as a vice principal for 2 years. He is a member of governing council of his college under autonomous status. He is a postgraduate in zoology from Nagpur University and stood first in order of merit. He was a CSIR, JRF and SRF with around dozens of publications in peer-reviewed journals. He has also published 19 textbooks. He has completed one minor research project funded by UGC. He has guided 10 postgraduate research projects. He played an instrumental role in getting star status for his college under DBT Star College Scheme, Government of India. Apart from organizing 8 national and international conferences, he has also organized Inspire internship camps twice funded by DST, Government of India. He is a member of the task force for screening and evaluation of proposals under the Star College scheme by Department of Biotechnology, Government of India, New Delhi. Under UGC, he is an honorary fellow of the Zoological Society of India. For his contribution to academics, he has been awarded International Best Teacher Award by SOWCOS Nepal in 2017. He also received Education Icon Award 2019 by Techno Pro Labs and incubation of IIT Patna for his contribution to academic excellence. Under UGC scheme of mentoring Paramarsh, he mentored 7 colleges for NAAC accreditation. He has also delivered more than 350 talks on NAAC assessment and accreditation individually and for RUSA HRDCs across the country. He is also a popular speaker on soft skills, career guidance, motivation, leadership, and excellence in higher education. So, with this brief introduction, we feel proud and it is a pleasure moment for us to welcome you as a speaker in our FDP, sir. We welcome you, and now I request Pingle sir to share his screen and start his presentation with. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Respected principal of J.A.T Arts Science Commerce College of Women, Malegaon, Dr. Mohammad Harun Mohammad Ramzan Sahab, Academic and Administrative Coordinator, Dr. Salma Sattar ma'am, IQAC Coordinator, Professor Munawwar Ahmad Sahab, my friend Adil, members of organizing committee for this 1-week faculty development program, and all the participants. At the outset, let me thank the organizers for inviting me to interact with all the participants over here who are trying to imbibe something on the changing trends of quality measures in higher education with respect to NAAC and the National Education Policy, which has come up in 2020. When Dr. Adil contacted me and said that we are organizing an FDP and can you deliver a talk? And when he told me about the theme of this FDP, I said it would be appropriate to talk on benchmarking and audits. Because when your theme is on measuring the quality, there are certain ways which you can follow to measure the quality of an higher education institution. There are certain expectations from an higher education institution. Those expectations are brought forward by MHRD, by UGC, by NAAC, and now through NEP from time to time. And therefore, we'll try to bring these two things together to see how can we meet these challenges, how can we meet these expectations to ensure that quality becomes a culture in higher education institutions. So we'll be talking about few things where we can monitor this quality, and one of them will be audits. Can we use audits to measure the quality? Can we use feedbacks to measure the quality? Because your whole system is focusing, your whole FDP is focusing on measuring the quality. So can we use feedbacks as a measure of quality? Can we use student satisfaction surveys? And when I say student satisfaction survey, I do not necessarily talk about teaching alone. I talk about every other factor governing the quality in higher education. So can we use these as the measures of quality? Can we use best practices as the measure of quality? And in the process, do we become distinct from all other higher education institutions? So this will be the focus of my presentation today. I've been told that I can interact for 1 hour, 15 minutes or so from now. So I'll take 1 hour or so and then leave 15 minutes for you to interact if you wish to. But before we start and go ahead, we need to understand difference between quality control and quality assurance before we start measuring the quality. Quality control and quality assurance. I can just see my senior friend, senior colleague, Dr. Shankar sir. Very pleased to see you, Shankar sir. So we need to really understand, do we want to bring out the quality control, or are we interested in quality assurance? And therefore, we also need to understand difference between them. One would see that quality control is like, finding out what is going wrong. That is quality control. So for example, if my institution is not faring well in terms of the results of the students, then probably you will find out the cause. You'll look for, who is that student who is, causing that decline in the result. But to have that assurance in the quality, it is not important to find that student alone who is deteriorating your quality, but it is important to find out the cause why that decline is there. What is wrong with that student? So therefore, I would just exemplify it, telling you, not finding the bug in your sleeping bag or maybe your bed. Eliminating the cause why that bug is coming up. Removing the root cause is quality assurance. And that is what we do when we are managing the quality. And how do you manage the quality in the institution? Step number 1 is focusing on your stakeholders. You have to have that realization of who is your ultimate stakeholder. But more often than not, we consider students as the only sole stakeholder. It is the primary stakeholder, all right, but is not the sole stakeholders. Your stakeholders are your alumni. Your stakeholders are society. Your stakeholders are parents. Your stakeholders are employers as well. So you should be focusing on all your stakeholders if you want to manage the quality of your institution. And for having that right focus on your stakeholders, you should be having a leadership with a vision. And if you have that, a quality leader, a good leader will involve people. You know the difference between a boss and a leader. You do not want to be a boss, you want to be a leader. So to be the leader, you have to set the examples, involve the people, ensure that participative management and decentralization is working in your institutions. And when you do so, you set up certain processes. You define processes. You define processes for employment, appointment, admissions, research, green initiatives, e-governance. And when such processes are defined, you set up a system for it. You set the responsibilities, you define the roles, you set the frequency of the events, you set the mechanism for keeping the records, for generating the documents. And then you take up a review. You take up a review to ensure that there is a continual improvement. Are you getting what you were expected to achieve? If not, then you revisit your processes, you revisit your system to ensure that continual improvement is happening. But for this, you have to have an unbiased, factual approach of decision making. Just because we are emotionally attached to our institution, for example, I am very emotionally attached to my institution, does not mean that I ignore the lacunae in my institutional system. So I have to be very factual in my approach. I have to get my figures right so that I can ascertain the actual performance and actual situation of my institution on a given day. Now, this will ensure a mutually beneficial relationship, what we in management call as a win-win relationship, win-win association, where everyone is benefited. The institution is getting benefited, the leadership is getting benefited, students are getting benefited, society at large is getting benefited. So this is a kind of win-win situation or mutually beneficial relationship. But when we are talking about managing this quality in the institution, so many factors playing. What are the checkpoints? Where do we stop and assess ourselves? There are several. One can be the student satisfaction survey. Now, why, with disregards to all other factors playing, we are focusing on student satisfaction survey first? Because if you go through any document pertaining to higher education system, or for that matter, primary education in India, you would realize that the system is a learner-centric system. When we go to any shop, when we buy anything, be it a bottle of jam or a cold drink or curd or milk, or whatever it is, what ultimately matters is the customer's satisfaction. If I'm paying, say, for example, $100 for purchasing something, I should be getting value worth 100 rupees. So if student is my ultimate beneficiary, I should ensure that he is satisfied. And therefore, student satisfaction survey. But there are so many processes, as I said, playing in the institution. Whether all the processes and the systems associated with these processes are working in tune with your vision, are working in tune with the benchmarks set by the higher education system or by the institution yourself, you have to have a system of academic and administrative audit. There are certain things which probably cannot be quantified. Then feedback from other stakeholders are also important. It can be with respect to the curriculum, it can be with respect to the infrastructural facilities you are offering, it can be with respect to the outcomes program outcomes or course outcome, learning outcomes for that matter. And in the process, you are trying to bring out best in everything that you have been doing. Best in everything that you have been doing. And that is the importance of inculcating best practices in your institution. Best practice is not about, finding 2 good practices that you have been doing. There are 100 things you are doing in your institution, and then you bring in probably 2 best practices alone. No. Best practice is about taking all the process in your institution one notch up, so that all of the practices become best practices in your institution. And then when you do so, in this process, you become a brand. You become a brand. And that is when you call yourself distinct from others. J.A.T. College in Malegaon, special college in Malegaon, unique college in Malegaon. In some respects, Sangamner College in Ahmednagar district, unique college, known for this, known for that. Ferguson College in Pune, known for this, known for that. You make your own identity. ID, institutional distinctiveness, ID, my identity. I'm known for this. So we'll discuss all these things in terms of how you can measure the quality in light of NAAC or NEP for that matter. First is measuring the quality through audits. But then you have to know what an audit is. The key word here is unbiased. Unfortunately, the practice which is going on right now, just to satisfy the requirements of NAAC assessment and accreditation process, is a paperwork of academic and administrative audit, which I'm afraid is not a genuine audit that many people are doing. A genuine audit is unbiased examination. If your results are low, mark it, yes, your results are low. If your research is poor, yes, write down my research is poor. If you do not have incubations or innovations in your institution, mark yet no mechanism for institutionalizing the innovations in the institution. If you do not have any best practice yet, mark that no practice has been identified as best practice. Just because NAAC has asked, people are doing this exercise without realizing that probably they are ignoring the places where they need to improve. So it has to be an unbiased examination. And like say, घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर कभी-कभी कहते हैं कि हम अच्छा भी कर लेते हैं, we are doing good things, but then people don't recognize it. And sometimes internal mechanism is like, you have that opportunity to hide your lacunae. So let others comment on your performance. Let external peers come. So there is internal audit, there is external audit. You take your own parameters, you decide whether you are doing good or not. And then call external peers, also some experts from outside agency, and then let them examine how your performance is. So you have internal as well as external audits. You can do several kinds of audits to verify your own systems. All your academic provisions can be audited. All your administrative provisions can be audited. Your finances, accounts can be audited. This is the usual practice in all organizations, whether education institutions or not. You can also carry out a gender audit to see whether you are doing justice to the gender equity policies, or do we have a gender equity policy at all? You can do a green audit to see whether the atmosphere, the environment in your institution is conducive for offering the higher education system. And what is the benefit of carrying out these audits? If you are genuinely and unbiasedly carrying out these audits, this will definitely increase efficiency. If you are hiding the facts, then it's just a piece of paper signed by some external peer and by your principal. If you're genuinely doing it, it will lead to find out the drawbacks. And then you will strive to work on those drawbacks so that you will improve. And that will lead to increased efficiency. If you're talking about financial audits, it may lead to increased revenue. The morale of your employee will be on high. That is very important, with so many factors coming up. There is pressure from HRD, there is pressure from NAAC, there is pressure upcoming pressure with the expectations from NEP, from joint director, state government, we sometimes, feel low. It's important to keep our morale very high. And when you see slight improvement, okay, because of my audit, I realized that the research output is probably low. Next year, I improve a bit. And then I suddenly feel encouraged. Yes, if I can go one notch up, I can definitely move 5 notches up. So there is always scope for improvement because we feel encouraged. Due recognition is given. So if somebody has improved upon a factor, maybe results have improved, same can be discussed in the meeting of maybe your CDC or governing council. Same can be recognized. These recognitions may also come from NAAC when they write their peer team reports, 10 observations, and you feel good. Or the peer team has made nice remark because we were striving to improve for last 5 years. But how would you find what are those areas where you need to improve? The audits. This will also improve your stakeholders' relationships. This will improve your documentation. This will bring in the consistency. So when you do regular audits, you do not do it for a year. You do not do it for a day or months. It becomes your habit. That brings in the consistency. You do it every year. And final result is customer satisfaction leading to improvement. Everybody is satisfied. Oh, I'm working for an institution which is having good research, which is having a good curriculum development process, which is having a good teaching learning process, which is having a good infrastructure and whatnot, which is having a transparent and rigorous leadership and governance. For this to happen, we have to realize the whole philosophy of system, which is, I think, applicable to any system which is striving for quality. And that is PDC approach, you all know. But knowing a policy is not enough. Applying that policy practically in the system is very important. So we all know, we just cannot do things randomly. We have to plan it. Like Dr. Adil contacted me some 15 days back while he was organizing this FDP, the IQAC of the college was organizing this FDP. So there was a planning. And when you actually do it, the planning, when you actually do it, you realize probably something has gone wrong. Something is missing. And when you check what is that thing which was missing, you act on it so that it should not happen again. What is the overall output of the process? Quality improvement. So when you actually do things as per the plan and you review what was wrong, what has been going wrong, you try to improve upon it. This is a slow process. Though it is a slow process, it should happen continuously. You should have a system for monitoring. Just implementing a system in your institution is not good enough. You have to go back every time and see whether your system is working in an expected way. And if you are doing so, then only quality enhancement and quality sustenance will take place. Enhancement is one thing, sustenance is another thing. You have to maintain the quality. See, my college was B++ in first cycle. In second cycle, my college is A. And third cycle, my college is A+. We are autonomous now. So the graph is rising. You just cannot be complacent about your functioning. If I become complacent, I'll probably at A+ only, or may go down to A also. I cannot be complacent. I have to now target A++, or maybe to be a deemed university. So the graph has to rise all the time. And for that to happen, as I said, you have to keep monitoring your systems. How is your system functioning? And one part of doing that is following a PDCA approach. So I will not put much time in describing what PDCA approach is. But for any audit to be done, now these days there are practices where people call some agency to carry out audit. But there is a lot of preparation that has to go before you actually carry out an audit. It all starts with the policies. Many of you are busy probably filling up your AQAs 2021. And there are so many questions asking for policies. If you do not have policies in place, whatever things you are doing in your institution are being done randomly alone. Aaj mood mein aa gaya to ye kar liya. Just because I thought that I will conduct certain program today, I have done a program. And then anything which is not planned, it may not bear fruits. So for you to have a system functioning for quality, it should always start with having the policies in place for everything that is happening in the institution. Secondly, a policy having processes defined in it, responsibilities defined in it, documents pertaining to that policy. For example, we have policies for e-governance, we have policies for code of ethics, we have policies for maintenance of physical infrastructure, IT management, for policies for environment, and so on. Now, my question is, if I'm having certain policies in place, for example, a policy for IT management, what documents or records can be generated from that policy? There has to be a format defined then and there for those policies. Do we have that format in place? For example, again, as I said, IT management policy. If I have to purchase some IT equipment, what do? Do I write on a plain sheet of paper and submit it to principal, and principal will forward it to website, and probably not even website, to the vendor, and I'll purchase a computer? Maybe no. The answer is, if I require a computer for IQAC, I have to have a specific format of form which is called as indent form, which I'll probably give it to the IT unit of my college. IT unit will probably take permission from the Central Purchase Committee, and then a tender will be floated if I have to have a number of computers, and then accordingly probably a computer will be purchased. If my computer is not working, I have to lodge a complaint to IT cell of my institution. What is the process for that? Do I have a format again for that thing? Do I write on a plain piece of paper and give it to somebody in my institution? Are the applications for IT related repair different from all the sections of the college? If this is happening, then your policies are not in place. So you should have documents related to that policy. For example, formats for application, formats for purchase orders. And in the process, when you have documents, records will be generated. Those records should be in place. Frequency should be defined. For example, maintenance of something has to take place. What will be the frequency? 6 monthly, quarterly, annually? That frequency has to be defined. And many a times we establish so many policies, we establish so many processes in the institution, but because there is a lack of proper training to the personnel who would be the end users, the policies don't work. So proper training has to be given to these personnel, the end users. Set up quality objectives. Now, for example, I have a quality policy for IT management. Now, for this policy of IT management, I have to set some quality objectives, probably, for example, 100% or maybe 0% dead stock or 0% writing off. That can be a quality objective. That means no computer will be dead in the given year. Or 100% increase or 50% increase in the existing IT infrastructure. That can be my quality objective. By what number do I want to increase the number of IT related sources in my institution? 20% increase in the internet speed bandwidth. That can be quality objective. So do we set some targets for ourselves for this institution? That is called as quality objectives. That is what we should do. And that is something that can be finally, cumulatively written down in your perspective and strategic plan for the given year, that we were striving to increase such and such thing by this and this factor. So coming to academic and administrative audit, there are two kinds of services, or there are two ways of providing services to our stakeholders. One is through academic section and another is through administrative part of it. So anything that is associated with your programs that are offered, syllabus, delivery of evaluation, results, research, outreach, learning resources, alumni, co-curricular and other activities is covered under academics. And anything that is governed directly by administration, for example, infrastructure, student support, accounts, pay units, organization, service related document process, etc. They are audited under administrative audit. So you can see here, for you to conduct an academic audit, you just don't go for that piece of paper and tick, putting that tick mark that this is there, this is there, this is there. No, not the correct way of doing an audit. You have to very minutely measure the outputs of each and every process in your institution. Broadly, that can be described in this way. So if you're talking about curriculum, can you talk about range of programs that you have, the revision of curriculum that you might have, feedbacks, participation on institutional bodies? If you're talking about teaching learning, can you monitor the PhDs or staff competency? Can you monitor the teaching learning processes, the methodologies, teaching and learning tools? Can you monitor your results? Can you monitor the provisions for remedial teaching to slow learners or the provisions for advanced learners? Can you monitor in research about the publications, the research outputs, the projects, the resource mobilization, the consultancy and collaborations, innovations brought in, the industry interaction? Talking about infrastructure, can you monitor the equipment, the amount spent, the budget allocated? Can you monitor the teaching aids provided? Can you monitor the number of laboratories or classrooms and augmentation, if any? So there are several factors that you can audit as far as administrative academic services are concerned. Similarly, you can audit several administrative services, including whether the roles and responsibilities are defined, whether the admission is transparent, online, merit, first come, first serve basis, etc. Whether there is academic calendar is in place, whether the vision and mission clearly described, whether the institution is having quality policies, whether benchmarking internal, external is done, how many placements are there, what is the, what are the provisions of library, grievance redressal cell, functional or not, anti-ragging cell, functional or not, security available in institution, water, etc., other infrastructure facilities available or not, Form 16, IT, salary norms, etc. at pay unit, whether they are working as per the regulations. Similarly, there's so many other things, LCTC, scholarships, budget, service books, inward, outward. You have to monitor everything, whether they are going as per the policies and processes defined by the institution. So you realize, and if you do not have policies and procedures defined, you do not have any way to measure the outcome. So you have to start with the policies first. This is something that is usually happening in all the institutions, the financial audit. To make sure that your financial records are fair and accurate. Now, you can have an internal audit. So do you have a commerce teacher in your institution, or probably if a chartered accountant or CMA for that matter in your institution who has reasonable knowledge of accounts? So if internally you can go through your books of accounts, verify the balancing, cost, etc., that can be good. And finally, then you have to get it done through your chartered accountant to confirm the existence and value of assets and liabilities, so that you can plan the financial march of your institution. I'm not talking about the month march. March means progress. How you can plan ahead, how much resources are available to you, what are the possibility of resource mobilization, can you fetch resources from some other avenues, right? So that will come through financial audit. Cutting it short, because it basically happens in a highly specialized job that your chartered accountants are doing, an established system. But something which is not established in most institutions, and especially the higher education institutions, is a gender audit. Why are we concerned? See, there is high disparity between, the number of boys and girls being benefited by the various processes in higher education system. I'm not talking only about number of boys and girls getting admitted in the institution. Apart from that, the boys and girls participating in sports, maybe participating in NSS, NCC, being meritorious university rankers, administration, a number of men and women in administrative services or in the administrators, maybe in IQAC, administrative committees, facilities in library, physical facilities for boys and girls separately in institution. So when we think about this parity, we forget that it is not only about equality, it is also about equity. And what do we mean by equity? What is shown on the left-hand side of your screen is equality, providing equal opportunities. But mere providing the equal opportunities will probably not serve the purpose all the time. Though your effort was very, very genuine, but then it is not actually bearing the fruits. You see, one of the stakeholders is still not able to get hold of this apple on the tree. And therefore, which you may probably call as a bias or unjust functioning of the system, is when you look at the output of the system is very just. It's appropriate, because you want all your stakeholders, all your students, whether male or female, whether minority or, from urban or rural areas, all of them to reach up to certain level, certain target, certain outcome which is expected. So in our system, with equality, we are more interested in equity as well. But where would that be assured from? And is it happening in your institution? For that, again, you will have to carry out another exercise, which is called as gender audit. And when you carry out a gender audit, you focus on finding the gender gaps. Like I said, a few days back only, we have carried out gender audit for our institution 2021. And we have to find a gap. Do we have equal representation of men and women in administration? What is the number of male and female students? What is the number of boys and girls participating in sports? What is the number of boys and girls participating in NSS, NCC, cultural activities, and so on? So if you have gaps in there, you'll have to have mechanisms to bridge that gap, to minimize that gap. And then on the basis of your observations through gender audit, you will come up with some plan which will be called as gender sensitization action plan. Girls probably are not participating in sports because they feel that there is no washroom around where they could change their uniforms and run on the athletics track. So what was wrong? Your infrastructural arrangements of provisions was wrong. Girls were willing to play, but because there was no washroom around where they could change their, attire that is needed for athletics, therefore they were not participating. Maybe the diet was something which was a concern. So can you, provide diet for girls sportswomen or sportswomen for that matter? Gender action plan or gender sensitization action plan will include all these provisions which are there in your institution or which you need to have in your institution, which may include security, which may include girls hostel, which may include girls common room, which may include provision for CCTV cameras, daycare rooms, etc., and whatnot. Can you bring in some awareness programs? There's a big problem with gender sensitivity in institutions. Sir, can you just let me know if I'm connected?
Yes, sir. Please.
Am I connected? Yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So you have to ensure that you make provisions for all the genders. Now, the problem here is that very often people feel that when it comes to gender, it is all about women or girls. The answer is no. The cell for prevention of sexual harassment in my institution is not for girls and women alone. You will see in AQR the minutes of the cells of a cell uploaded. The cell is for men and women. A man can also be a victim of sexual harassment. People fail to understand this. A man can also be a victim of ragging. It's not about eve teasing always. Men are also sometimes the victims. So when you are bringing out those awareness programs in your institution, you should ensure that males and females both participate in such programs. Both of them should be aware of the provisions in the regulation. For example, UGC regulation 2015, which is about the sexual harassment in higher education institution. The proceedings of such committees should be maintained and a review has to be taken. Now, people sometimes say, "Sir, हमारे तो sexual harassment ये सब होता ही नहीं, सब बढ़िया बढ़िया है, तो हमारी meeting तो हुई नहीं ना." You have to conduct meeting every time so that you monitor the actual situation today as on day. And therefore, gender audit is a tool for mainstreaming the gender to ensure gender equality in general and gender equity to be specific. See, we are going step by step to ensure that we are measuring quality in terms of everything that is happening in the institution. Another way of measuring the environment, whether it is conducive or not. See, somebody would say in earlier methodology, suddenly when green audit came, why do you want to, are we industry? Why do you want to conduct a green audit in a higher education institution? The point is, the higher education institution, for example, mine, there are as many as 6,000, in fact, 8,000 people. 8,000 people visit my institution every day. It's a huge number. And if my institution is not a place which is conducive for their daily work that they are doing in the institution, then it can harm their lives. So I have to ensure that the environment is conducive in my institution. And therefore, I have to carry out the green audit. And another misconception, another fallacy is that people think is green audit is all about trees. That probably also has gone wrong with NAAC's methodology where they're asking for green audit, environmental audit, and another energy audit, I guess. In fact, green audit is a comprehensive audit which includes everything pertaining to environment, including even e-waste. So very comprehensive exercise where you talk about plants, where you talk about animals, where you talk about the NOx and SOx pollution, carbon monoxide level, where you talk about noise levels, decibel levels, where you talk about e-waste being generated, where you talk about consumption of electricity, energy, alternative sources of energy also. So everything comes under one roof, one umbrella, green audit. People sometimes fail to understand, they feel that it is all about trees. No. So as I said, it focuses on your geographical location. Where are you located? The floral and flora means plants in botanical terms, and fauna means animals. So it also talks about your floral and faunal diversity. Recently, I visited one of the autonomous colleges in Mumbai, Kandivali Education Society's Shroff College. It has only 2 acres of campus, but so that they cannot, plant many trees around. But as soon as you enter into the campus, there are so many earthen pots, a beautiful garden, at least 2 earthen pots of all sorts of different plants, all plants green, QR code pasted on those pots. Beautiful garden without having enough land for planting trees. KES, Kandivali Education Society, Shroff College, an autonomous college in Mumbai. What are meteorological parameters in your institution? What are the energy consumptions? Do you have alternate source of energy? Do you have waste disposal system? Do you have ambient environmental conditions, just like I said, no? NOx, SOx, nitrogen oxides, sulfur oxides, carbon oxides, then SPM, suspended particulate matter. Can you measure them? Do you have mechanism for getting rid of the waste coming out from laboratories, chemical waste? Do we conduct awareness and training programs for students? Do we have no plastic zones, for example? Do you have an environment management plan and policy? Just now I was mentioning that policy. So if you have these systems, you will go on monitoring these. And when you monitor these through a green audit, you'll always be on the toe to maintain those standards as per the policy that you have drafted. So it is very important again to draft a policy, environment policy. So you go to criterion 7, they are asking for an environment policy, a related policy. So again, I will emphasize on the fact that you need to have a policy first. If you have a well-defined policy, you can set up your goals. And when you set up your goals, you can monitor them through audits. That is the final process. So what do we do after the audits? We have done academic and administrative audit. We have done green audit. We have done gender audit. We have done financial audits. The point is, what do I do with the audits? So when I do audits, after setting up certain targets for myself, I will probably find out areas where I'm not performing well. For example, I'm this year, in fact, 2021, my college is having 0 research projects funded. This is an area of concern. I've been talking with my principal for the last 2 days. No funded research project in my institution that in the year 2021. That is non-conformity for me. Something which I strive for is not there at all, 0, non-conformity. If only 1 or 2 projects are there, that is a concern for me. So I will say it is an attention point. I need to focus, otherwise in coming years, it may become 0. People will lose interest. So it is kind of warning, attention points. I'm having 5 or 10 research projects, but then I want to improve upon them. So I'll say opportunity for improvement. I can further increase them. So even if, opportunity for improvement is there, or you have some attention points where you need to focus more, you'll have to find out root cause. For example, the root cause for me not to have any funded research project in 2021 is all our funded projects have ended. And during COVID, no funding agency has probably invited proposals for research projects, except for few. And then I have an excuse to say that some of us applied for ICSR, but did not get shortlisted. So it is important for you to find out the root cause and then bring in the compliance. What will I do next year to improve upon it? Do the gap analysis. Where is that gap? What is that problem which is coming up? So if I had 5 last year and now I'm having 3, I have gone down by 2. It's just like, the exit poll and the election reports that come up. BJP ko kitna seat ka nuksan aur aapko kitni seat ka fayda. So that is gap analysis. So AAP is happy because they have gained some 90 odd seats. BJP is unhappy because they have lost 1 seat from 3 to they have come down to 2 in Punjab. So that analysis, why I have lost that 1 seat. Where is that seat coming from? What were the factors playing over there? That is called as gap analysis. And accordingly, वो हम कहते हैं ना, कांग्रेस की मंथन बैठक हुई, 5 राज्यों के अध्यक्षों ने इस्तीफा दे दिया. So what is that मंथन बैठक? That मंथन बैठक is suggesting recommendations. What has gone wrong in Manipur? What has gone wrong in Punjab? What has gone wrong in Uttar Pradesh? What has gone wrong in Goa? What has gone wrong in Uttarakhand? Congress people will sit together and they say leadership में change होना चाहिए, ये change होना चाहिए, वो बेटी ये बनेगी, वो नहीं चला, कुछ दूसरा आना चाहिए. That these are recommendations. So I have to see why I could not have any funded project in research last year. Accordingly, I will have to give some recommendations. So audit without recommendation is incomplete. I'm focusing all these things because the theme of your FDP is measuring the quality. We are measuring. So without any recommendation, any goody audit report just for the sake of NAAC is useless. You are bluffing and you are making fool of yourself. You means, anybody if they are doing it just for the sake of report to be submitted to NAAC. It is a report for self-improvement. So when I see recommendation that this can be done, this can be done, this can be done, then I'm honestly working in the direction of ensuring quality in the institution. Then coming to another aspect of measuring the quality, and quickly, that is feedback. Again, it has to be genuine stuff. Point number 1 is what is feedback? Dr. Adil Momin thought that Pingle speaks well, so he invited. That is the input. Pingle is delivering a lecture for 1.5 hours. All right. But there are stakeholders who are listening to me. And at the end of this FDP, you will go for a feedback. There's no point taking a feedback if you do not communicate it to Pingle again. Right? Because the ultimate goal is the improvement of the speaker. You cannot, अच्छा Pingle ने बेकार दिया तो अगली बार किसी और को बुला लेंगे और वो भी खराब निकला तो फिर तीसरे को बुला लेंगे, वो भी अच्छा नहीं बोला तो चौथे को बुला लेंगे. But finally you have not communicated the feedback to me. तो मुझे तो इंप्रूव होने का चांस ही नहीं. मुझे कैसे पता चलेगा कि लोगों को क्या पसंद आया और क्या पसंद नहीं आया, या लोग मुझसे और क्या चाहते थे. So feedback has to be communicated to the resource person as well. When we conduct our programs, workshops in IQAC cluster, we share that feedback on our group and individual feedbacks are given. This resource person was good, this resource person was very good, this was expected, this was not expected, etc. etc. So that when we go to our next talk or next workshop, we actually know what we have to provide to our stakeholders. So this feedback has to ultimately reach to the operator, one who is operating the things. And therefore you can see this is just like a circuit diagram probably that people do in electronics and computer science. So finally it has to reach to the operator so that output that you are getting is an improved output all the time. This is the whole understanding of feedback that you all know. So when you keep on taking a review on your existing processes, you have a certain process of organizing FDP and you sit together at the end of 7th day and say, क्या अच्छा कर सकते थे, क्या बुरा हो सकते थे, क्या गलत हो गया, क्या सही हो गया. You take a review, improve upon it, and when next time you do another FDP, it will be probably even a grand event. You are already doing good with offline-online blending and a camera set over with a banner behind. But then when you sit together, again take a review of maybe new ideas will come up. What will it ultimately do? It will increase your efficiency. It will increase your quality. So what are those areas, different areas where you can take feedback? There are several. But because we are an educational institution, higher educational institution, our prime focus is on teaching and learning. Our another focus is curriculum. And in addition to that, we have focus on services, what I call as Student Satisfaction Index, SSI. It is not that which is taken by NAAC for SSS, Student Satisfaction Index. Feedback for outcome attainment. I so probably remember that I have delivered one of the talk for outcome-based education in your institution or maybe Manmad. Staff development is another thing where feedbacks are expected. Who can offer those feedbacks? You can get these feedbacks from the stakeholders and you can give these feedbacks to the stakeholders. Giving feedback to the stakeholders is also important. Giving feedback to your employers is also very important. Taking feedback from the employers is also important. For this to happen, you need to have a very, very specific mechanism for collecting the feedback, analyzing them, and analysis is not enough. You have to take action based on the analysis which you have done. I'll give you a simple example. It is a story of probably 2014 or 15 maybe. I had collected feedback from the institution. Before I collect feedback from the students, I make it a point that I go to each class and explain the purpose of collecting the feedback and the necessity of collecting genuine feedback so that students just do not write 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. So there is always a risk of getting fake feedback. To ensure that you do not get a fake feedback, you have to communicate with the stakeholders regarding the genuinity of your cause. So I talk to my students, I talk to my stakeholders individually. And then the analysis is carried out, and on the basis of the analysis, I was giving you one example. What few students wrote that the handwriting of XYZ teacher is not visible when he writes on the green board or white board or blackboard or whatever it is. So when I went through that feedback, I just called up that teacher, no paperwork. I just called up that teacher and said, sir, this is not a complaint, this is suggestion from the students. And after giving that suggestion to the teacher, few days back, I went to a few days later, in fact, I went to that class again and asked the students, do you see any changes? The student said, yes, sir. Now the handwriting is visible on the board. Now you would say, what is the point of following it up? The point in following it up is, when you follow it up and the stakeholders see a difference, they develop a faith in your system. The students and stakeholders do not give you a genuine feedback because they do not have trust in your feedback system. उन्हें लगता है कि feedback ऐसे भरने का ही है, इससे कुछ होने वाला नहीं है. I remember I was traveling some 5 years back in one of the trains towards South India, I guess, and it was Duranto Express. And there was something, there was a feedback agency which was collecting the feedback on Duranto Express. That guy was forcing me to give 5 feedback. What he did, he took all the entries from me, and in spite of taking feedback from me, he just started walking so that he can fill 5 or 4, whatever. And I lodged a complaint on Twitter with the railway minister. An immediate reply was given and he came back to me, that guy, regretting it. So now I have faith in the system that these tweets work with the railway ministry. Similarly, when stakeholders see that action on feedback is taken, then only they develop trust on it. And therefore, all your feedbacks, their analysis, etc., should be made available on your website. That is what is expected in criterion 1 and criterion 2 of your website, of your NAAC manual. So you can take a feedback on teaching learning. You should be taking it for all teachers, for all courses, for all semesters, online, offline. You should take also peer review. Let others assess your teaching. See, when online teaching came up, people were so concerned. Online teaching, people were concerned initially. Teachers were afraid. Why? The reason was, in the offline class, nobody knew what is happening inside the class. If I did not have mood of taking a class, I would say, तुम्हारा नाम क्या है, कहाँ से आए हो, पापा क्या करते हैं, मम्मी क्या करते हैं, कल की मूवी देखी क्या, उसमें ऐसा हुआ, तारे जमीन पर देखी क्या, उसमें वैसा हुआ, 3 इडियट्स देखी क्या, उसमें कैसा हुआ, तुम्हें क्या लगता है, चलो आओ ब्लैक बोर्ड पे करके दिखाओ. टाइम पास 50 मिनट खत्म. But when online classes were taking place, we suddenly realized that along with the students, who knows, their parents are sitting and they are also seeing what we are doing in the classes. So is peer review. Let management people come and sit in your class. Let principal also monitor your class someday. If you are a good teacher, you'll sail through. What is the harm? Use different systems of online feedback, correction. And of course, you can refer to the student satisfaction survey. I will not go into the details of the NAAC methodology. My point today is to measure the quality. Another focus on quality is your curriculum. We keep on cribbing that our curriculum are not in tune with the requirements of the society, and that is true. Our syllabi are still ages old. Ages old. We are still teaching those, 10, 20-year-old things to our students, which are outdated, not needed by the industry, employers, and the society in general. What are we doing for it? What are the expectations? Students know more. If you talk about, to computer science students and electronic students, I happened to visit as a chief guest on science exhibition on 20th February in one of the local schools. And that guy showed me robotics using Arduino circuit. And what my BSc student is doing, he is using an injection syringe with water to show me JCB. See the difference. A BSc student using water injection to show me JCB, and a class 6, class 7 students using Arduino circuits to show me robots. Where is our higher education system going? This is because our syllabi have become outdated. And therefore, students are the best judge. Ask them, what do you want in your syllabus? We are afraid of refining our syllabus because we realize that we'll have to, make ourselves go with the new technology coming up. इस उम्र में कौन सीखेगा नया? काय का Arduino और काय का Raspberry Pi? काय का रोबोटिक्स, हमारे जमाने में तो होता ही नहीं था, हमको सीखना पड़ेगा, इसलिए हमारे सिलेबस भी ऐसे ही होता है, कुछ नया नहीं सीखेंगे, बच्चों को भी पुराना सिखाएंगे. So that is a big challenge that we have to have, and we have to face, and we have to work upon. So ensure that you are participating in these things, and for that you have to obtain the feedback from students regarding curriculum. And similarly for placements, career guidance, counseling services, more than we go through these placement portals, students are on these placement portals because they need it. Take the feedbacks from the students and ask about the systems or the provisions you are providing. What are your provisions for career guidance and how can you improve upon them? What are the suggestions coming from the students to improve upon the career guidance system? What do they want? Do they want some extra space? Do they want some computers? Do they want subscription to journals? Do they want subscription to some magazines? Take feedback on all these services, including grievance redressal, hostels, common rooms, etc., so that the quality that you are talking about can be measured. Where are these things where you need to improve? And one of the measures of quality again is the learning outcomes. A chemistry student got admitted in college because he wanted to learn chemistry. He wanted to learn drug chemistry. He wanted to learn polymer chemistry. He wanted to learn analytical or organic chemistry. He wanted to learn synthesis of compounds. But when he graduated or post-graduated from the institution and was asked to synthesize one organic compound, he was not able to do it. Not even able to synthesize aspirin from salicylic acid. I'm not a chemistry person, I'm a zoologist. But the point is whether the student could come out with what was expected, that is learning outcome. Can you monitor it? Ask your students. If the program outcome number 1 was the student will be able to have a disciplinary knowledge of chemistry, science, blah, 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 whatever. Ask him before he goes out of your campus, he graduates, that could you achieve it? And if not, if the ratings are low, you'll have to again go back and see why the learning outcomes have not been attained. Was there something wrong in teaching? Was there something wrong in the learning process? Refine the processes so that quality in teaching, learning, ensuring the learning outcome can be achieved. Same, I'll ask a question and you need not answer. Why did you organize this FDP? When did this thought of organizing this FDP came? Was it a sudden thought or was it requirement? So I'm sure this was a requirement because in the light of NEP, you thought that there have to be certain measures for quality enhancement. And you realize that there are challenges coming up, you will have to shoulder them. And therefore, you had come up with this FDP. Initially, you probably taught your teachers to go for online teaching using Zoom, making e-contents, etc. Few days back only, Savitribai Phule Pune University has awarded Best Innovative Teacher Awards or Best E-Content Creator Awards in various disciplines. But initially, some kind of training might have been required. What decides the need of training? Staff development, the directives. So some maybe joint directors, state government, HRDC, they give you certain directives that you will have to do this onwards, now onwards. For example, in our institution, we started using LMS, Learning Management System. None of us knew what LMS is. So we made short videos, we conducted a training program, how to log in, how to upload, etc., etc. Directives, maybe from your administration, from state government, from regulating authorities. Your mission can direct you. For example, there is a mission statement written here. We strive to boost the self-confidence of students through their spiritual, moral, intellectual, social, emotional, physical development. I do not know how to bring out their boost the self-confidence of the students. I do not know. So can I undergo a course on life skills and then guide the students? That is through my mission. Roles and responsibility. My responsibility is an IQAC coordinator. Teacher first, then an IQAC coordinator. So am I just an IQAC coordinator because I am good at writing in English? Many institutions do so. A teacher from English because he can finally draft a report, IQAC coordinator. Or do I really have an understanding of higher education system and its requirement? So I understand my roles and responsibility and therefore I work. Therefore, I can probably need a training based on the recommendations and observations. If an audit has been carried out and it was told that Pingle is not having that research attribute or aptitude, then I should go for training in research. So based on recommendation and observations. Like I said, user feedback. There was one student when I was teaching him in BSc first year. He was an intelligent student sitting in first row of my class. But whenever he used to write an answer in the answer book, I could never make out what he's writing because his handwriting was very, very poor. Today, he's a teacher in a junior college. And you know, students never complain about his handwriting. Because the day I realized that there is a problem with his handwriting, I asked him to come up with a 4-line notebook. He was sitting beside me and I asking him to write A, B, C, D in BSc first year. That was a training I gave to him because that was based on the feedback. So your feedbacks decide what kind of training. And then you carry out such kind of training programs in your institution. For example, I carry out very basic training programs. For example, typing in Marathi, Unicode, responding to emails. There is certain email coming to the office from Joint Director office. Now somebody has to respond to it. Respected sir, thanks for your email. The office will contact you soon. Such kind of basic drafting of emails. Please find attached this for your kind perusal. Such kind of basic document, skills should be made aware to your non-teaching staffs as well. So this defines what kind of training is required. And that is why you are all taking a training program on NEP also these days. But the problem with these feedbacks is, as we'll discuss and move into the last part of your talk today, is that these feedbacks are taken very, very casually. They are taken for namesake. This is a feedback which I've copied from some institution. I have deliberately blocked the name of the people who have given this feedback and the institution as well. But you see the strokes of these ticks, very, very casual. And the responses which are given in these feedbacks are also poor. I'm moving a little fast because I realize that I'll have to finish it by 11:30. Then move to another part of it, measuring quality. How will you ensure that, yes, quality improvement is taking place in your institution? Is through nurturing your best practices. And when you are nurturing your best practices, you have to ensure something called as benchmarking. Compare J.A.T. college with Sangamner college. Sangamner college will compare itself with maybe Ferguson college, or maybe some other very good college in South India, Amrita Vishnu Vidyapeetham, for that matter. It's just like this advertisement which you say, uski shirt meri shirt se safed kaise, ya uski sari meri sari se safed kaise, Tide detergent. So that benchmarking can be internal as well as external. What was my performance in the last year and what was my performance this year? Internal benchmarking. You can call external experts to do this benchmarking and compare yourself with other institutions outside. If I have this many teachers, what are the number of teachers in other institutions? I have 60% PhD holders. How many PhD holders are there in a very good reputed institution around? Mumbai University compare themselves with Pune University for that matter. That is external benchmarking. You compare it with other agencies. But as I said, there's a misconception regarding best practice. You are doing 20 things, and when you are about to submit your AQR and SSR, you just point out 2 things which you think are the best and write them down. No, best practices are not something that you already have. Best practices is your effort to nurture a given practice into a best practice. So initially, in this approach of 4I 1D model, you focus on a practice which actually is not doing good in your institution. For example, if research is really poor in your institution, or student research for that matter is poor in your institution, you identify this practice to be made as a best practice in coming 5 years or so. So first I is identification. You identify what is that thing which you are not doing good. And then you set up a plan. For example, as I said, student research. So I thought the students, they're not involved in research in our institution. So I'll start a student research scheme. I'll initially promote postgraduate students to take up research project, and I will, ask all my teachers to guide at least one student research project. On a pilot scale, I will start it in one department or maybe postgraduate section of my college. And later on, I'll increase the amount I can put in. Maybe I will ask all the teachers from postgraduate college departments, then all the faculties, then all undergraduate students also, maybe starting from third year, then second year and then first year. Eventually, I will see that the number of student research projects and the number of students getting the awareness of research will increase in my institution. So that is called as institutionalization. I started with a pilot system implementation and then I institutionalized it. But when this becomes habit in my institution, that this will not stop, I will keep on doing it and provide best possible output through the system. This is called as internalization. So I tell you, this started in 2012 in my institution with around 150 research projects. This best practice is available on my institutional website. And even in COVID pandemic, in 2020-21, 420 student research projects were completed. Even in pandemic, what did we do? We gave up the primary data to the students and asked them, the students to analyze. He will learn something. He will learn referencing. He will learn to write bibliography. He will learn to analyze the facts. So nothing stops your best practices. That means internalization. And once they are internalized, you offer them to society. Wherever I go, I tell them my best practices, giving back to the society. This is called as 4I 1D approach of developing best practices. So if you are having now say 100 processes in your institution, when you gradually improve in all the processes of the institution and make them best, that is another measure of quality. So I will not describe the best practices and how they are nurtured in an institution more. And coming to the last, when this measure of quality is a continuous process in your institution, you are in a process of making or developing yourself into the brand because you are following your vision, because you are following your mission, and because you are following your values. So gradually people will realize, see, look at this image. This is all the colleges of Ahmednagar. These are all the colleges of Ahmednagar. And very, very enthusiastically, professor said about me, and he is very famous personality. What makes you famous? What makes you known is the difference that you are having. So this probably is how I want Sangamner College to be emerged as in Maharashtra, or Sangamner College in Maharashtra. I do not lose the connection. See, I still have to have connection with them. But then when people look at me, they say, no, Sangamner College is one of the best colleges in Maharashtra. Unique college in Maharashtra. So I can see the uniqueness here. And that happens when you make a brand out of yourself. And brands, they come up when you have unique selling propositions, USPs. What is my USP? What is that thing which I'm famous for? So I'll again cut the story short and take you to the last slide of my presentation. Recently, many of you might have participated in those FDPs and workshops by Ramanujan College. Am I right? Most of the teachers across the nation, they have their Telegram group, and around last time when I left that Telegram group, there were around 2,000 people from across the country in that Telegram group. There's a Telegram group of IQAC cluster also where thousands of higher education teachers are there. That is a brand, right? IQAC cluster, when we started with cluster, we did not know that it will become a brand. Now, as soon as you give IQAC in Google search box, cluster automatically comes. And that website comes as a first hit. That is brand. So when you type Ramanujan scientist does not come, Ramanujan college automatically comes because people keep visiting. That is the brand that they have made. What comes to your mind, Ramanujan College? The FDPs that they conduct, the refresher course that they conduct. So as soon as you go to their website, you see there are 60,000 people that they have trained, there are 40 FDPs and more they have conducted. This is an old picture. They have a logo, they have a social media presence felt, and they have their activities in line with their vision. Discover, empower, transform, building a better world. So this is what they have been doing. They've been training teachers, they've been training students. So now you see my presentation today in the light of audits, in the light of the best practices, in the light of feedback, and in the light of institutional distinctiveness, you will realize that all these are the expectations which are made in the new National Education Policy 2020. Am I still audible? Because I can see some images being freezed. I just want to check. Am I still there? If somebody can give a nod in the chat box, maybe. Okay, I'm there. Probably the host themselves lost the connection. Anyways, yeah. So in the light of NEP, I'll be just concluding my presentation. Yeah, thank you, Shankar sir. So if you look at now at the NEP and the expectations from NEP, you would see that NEP is striving us to recognize, identify, and foster the unique capabilities of each students. Learning outcomes we were talking about. Flexibility to the learners, the academic flexibility that you have, number of programs that you are offering, curriculum development, feedback. No hard separation between arts and science, between curricular, extracurricular activities, vocational and academic streams, choice-based credit system that we are having. Again, feedback, asking the students, are we really implementing choice-based credit systems? Multidisciplinarity and holistic education. Emphasis on conceptual learning, creativity and critical thinking, ethics and human and constitutional values, multilingualism, life skills, formative assessment and focus on it, use of technology in teaching and learning, diversity and respect to the local context, equity and inclusion, light but tight regulatory framework. I think we need to realize this and its importance very much, because in the process of following NAAC, NEP, etc., we have probably overburdened ourselves as well as students. They're struggling. This light and tight mechanism, regulatory framework is very, very important. Outstanding research, continuous reviews. So I think in the light of NEP 2020 and its expectations, we have to come up with those aspects of measurements which I have been describing for one and a half hour, so that when this everything accumulated together, it leads to overall development of the quality in the institution. I hope I have given answers to few of your concerns. I hope I have also given enough food for thought as an higher education system or personnel from higher education system. And I hope I could do justice with the responsibility that was given to me. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I hand it over to the organizers. Thank you.
This is Munawar Ahmed, sir, IQAC coordinator from J.A.T Arts, Science and Commerce College, Malegaon. On behalf of J.A.T management, principal, all the faculty members, and myself also, I express my deepest gratitude for having such an engaging and wonderful session, sir. As you have said that our feedback will be very much useful for all the resource persons. So here, first I give my feedback. Sir, your session is no doubt is very much engaging, very much enlightening. After listening to it, we feel enlightened, we feel energized, galvanized, and you have really thrown lights on the aspects of quality management which were still in the darkness for us. Sir, special thanks to you also for being the guiding light for all of us, for our college especially, and you have been guiding us for last 3 years. And at a call, you give your consent that requires really very special thanks to you. And one more thing, sir, we all know that nowadays all the colleges are very busy in preparing their AQAR 2021. And in this busy and very hectic schedule of yours, you have taken some time for us. So that also deserves a great gratitude to you, sir. Thank you very much for your knowledge, for sharing your knowledge, experiences, and expertise. We will never ever try to miss it, or we will again and again listen to your lecture and try to utilize all the things that you have thrown light upon. And sir, we hope that in future also you will give your consent to help us, to guide us. And really, really thank you to you, sir, for being the part of our FDP. And today you have really proved to the letter, to the title of our FDP, changing trends in quality measures in higher education as per NAAC and NEP. Sir, it was most fitting session of yours. Thank you so much for everything that you did in your session. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.